As we start the new unit, I want to look at graphing. When we think of graphing, I know what immediately comes to mind are the XY coordinate plane. Remember that X is your horizontal, the Y is your vertical, and remember that where they cross, that is 0, 0, but remember it has to name the origin, and that's going to kind of play a big role in some things we're going to define. Remember that the X and Y axis create what are called the quadrants. Splits the page into 4 parts, quad, 4. Remember that the first quadrant is up here where everything is positive. Remember that our X value, we're going to the right, so my X is going to be positive. Remember that my Y value, we're going up, so Y is going to be positive. Remember that everything is positive in that first quadrant. They count counterclockwise. Here's my second quadrant, my third quadrant, and my fourth quadrant. Now when we talk about the second quadrant, remember that what we're going to have is a negative X. Always think of the X value as going positive to the right, negative to the left. Always think of X as left and right. My Y value, I'm still going up, so it's going to be positive. Then we get to the third quadrant. What's going to happen is I'm still going left, negative X. But now, since I'm going down, that's going to give me a negative Y. Always think of your Y as being your vertical component. It's what's going to go up for positive, down for negative. Always think of X is left, right. Always think of Y is up, down, because we're going to establish differences between that and we get to slope here in a minute. In the fourth quadrant, I'm going to have a positive X because we're going to the right again. Always think of X as left and right. I'm going to have a negative Y because it's still going down. XY quadrant, graphing. I want to talk briefly about what it means to be a coordinate. Let's think about 3, 2. Coordinates, also called much more descriptive, you'll hear me call them ordered pairs very frequently. And the reason it's essential when we call them the ordered pairs are because what we're doing is we're ordering X first, Y second, and it's pairing those together. And remember what this also means is, if my X value is 3, since it's positive, that's to the right. Since it's up, that means 2. And again, as fundamental as this is, it's going to look very different when we look at slope here in a little bit. These are also called coordinates. This is the coordinate plane. Cartesian coordinate plane, if you want to get very specific. They're also called points, a very geometric term when we're talking about points, lines, and planes. Now, I do want to talk about different names we have for X. X is called your domain. We won't talk a lot about domains in this course. If you have to take Math 200, you'll talk about domain and range quite a bit. Range is what your Y is called. But again, those are much more technical terms that we won't cover as much in this class. Much more descriptive terms that you'll hear me use a lot. X is what's called your input variable. Y is what's called your output variable, especially when we get to functions here in a little bit. Those are very descriptive. X is what's called your independent variable. Y is what's called your dependent variable. And again, these are very descriptive as far as what we're going to need to be doing throughout the term.